Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaura Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Jaya Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Oh, Nitai hey, 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 Gaura hey, Gaura hey, Gaura hey, Gaura hey, Gaura hey, Gaura hey, Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Vishwaganandini Radhe Radhe, Vishwaganandini Radhe Radhe, Jaya Vishwaganandini Radhe Radhe, Vishwaganandini Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe, Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhabhika Giridhari Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nityananda Rai Ki Jai, Sachinandana Gaurahari Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishna Om Asto Tarasara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishna Om Asto Tarasara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishna Om Asto Tarasara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Leela Pravishna Om Asto Tarasara Shishimat Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Mahabhagavat Shila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Saptam Goswami Shila Satchitananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Arupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Gauda Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantam Anapetya Apeti Krityam Dvaipahino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayo Taravo Binidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatosmi Anapita Chirim Chirat Karunaivartino Kalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujalarasam Svabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dudikatam Vasadipita Sadahridare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhajami Radam Aravinda Netram Smarami Radam Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radam Karuna Baradram Tato Mamanasti Gatyena Japi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Mayamam Charnantikam. And first of all, offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada. And unto our beloved Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nuga Varayate. And to all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. So back to our Jaiva Dharma study. Second set. Jadedvaita Jnana Hoya Chita Upadaya Krishna Bhakti Chiradina Upaya Upaya
Such knowledge, which is solely related to the duality of this dull material world, is fit to be rejected, whereas transcendental knowledge of the divine duality within the spiritual world, Chit Jagat, should be accepted forever within one's heart, both as the upai, means of attainment, and the upai, goal worthy of attainment.
So, what is this duality within this material world? There's Krishna and there's Maya, fundamentally. And we are regularly making our choices between this. And even if we choose the Maya, there is still duality within the Maya, hot and cold, happiness, distress, etc. All of that is buffeting the jiva all the way through. But it's talking here, the spiritual duality. In the spiritual world, there is so much um, in the pastimes of duality. There's meeting and separation fundamentally. Without the separation, then the meeting is not enhanced sufficiently. The meeting will not be flourishing if there's no separation. There's four types of separation and four types of meeting described. The four types of separation are, what is that? Purvarag, Prem Vaititya, Man, and Purvas. These are the four types of separation that are described in Jaiva Dharma. Then there's four types of meeting that correspond to that, like Sankshipta, Sankiran, and Sampana, and Sampati. Samriddhiman. Samriddhiman is the fourth one. So these four types of union are there, and four types of separation. So this is all described in, I think it's chapter 32 or 33. So this is very fascinating to appreciate the duality within the spiritual world itself of meeting and separation. That means there is unhappiness due to separation in the spiritual world, but it's a transcendental. It's not like the suffering. It's not an easy topic to understand, the separation of the spiritual world. It's described in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, for example, that when they're feeling separation, they feel like they've been bitten by thousands of scorpions. They feel like their bodies are just heating up, blazing up in suffering condition. But this is the consciousness of being away from Krishna. If we can understand that separation can only arise after there's been meeting. When we've tasted the extremity and bliss and speciality and beauty of the meeting, then the separation becomes really acute. Understand? Without having that meeting, darshan of Krishna, we don't really understand what is the separation. We don't really appreciate what it is because we've never had the union with Krishna. We can read about it, hear about it, think about it, and meditate on it, and some abas, some flavor will actually come. When we read Gopi Gita, for example, the gopis are lamenting. They've been searching for Krishna and they're ready to give up their lives practically if they can't be again united with Krishna. This is the mood of torturous separation is described, but in the back of the mind, in the heart, there's complete bliss. In fact, it's a difficult topic to actually comprehend because when we read about the torturous condition of the gopis when they're inseparable. So what I'm saying basically in reference to this Falshruti is this is the duality, the meeting and separation in the spiritual world. So Jiva
Kabu
Kavu
Jaranai,
Jaranai, Hari
Hari Kavunai,
Kavunai,
Hari
Hari
Saha
Saha
Jiva Chintya
Chintya Beda
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 Mai.
Mai. The Jiva is not a product of dull matter, nor is he Kevala Advaita, absolutely one in all ways with Sri Hari. The Jiva is inconceivably different and non different from Hari.
Yes, this Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. What I was just describing about the meeting and separation is what we begin to immerse ourselves in when we are studying the Prayojan Tattva, when we are hearing about that transcendental spiritual world, when we are trying to put um, Vrindavan Dham and all the Nitya Siddha Parikras on the front focus of our consciousnesses, we will come to this very important dynamic between meeting and separation. It runs through all of the leaders and pastimes. So we will be coming to try to And the more we hear about the gopis' pastimes, the more we hear about this distinction between meeting and separation. And it's just a gradual um, education and understanding of this principle. Because in the Bhagavatam, we have these 5 gits of the 10th canto. It's like the heart of the 10th canto. We have the Rasa Panchadiya, which is the pastime of the Rasa Lila, which are like the 5 airs, but we also have the other 5 airs of the 5 gits. This is Venu Git, when the gopis are in their houses and they're remembering the song of Krishna's flute, and they're feeling, it's called Arishya. It's like a sanchari bhav, an emotion of like jealousy for the birds, for the cows, for the rivers, for the clouds, that they are close to Krishna. So these are very esoteric, beautiful topics to immerse ourselves in and bring us closer to a Vrindavan conception. And then there's Pranaya Git, which is heartbreaking, when they run all the way to the forest to be with Krishna, and Krishna tells them to go home. This in the 29th chapter, from verse about 29 through till about verse 31. There's, no, 29 to 39, 10 verses. That constitutes the Pranaya Git. And then there's Gopi Git,
Gopi.
and then there's Yugal Git, and then there's Brahmara Git, there's also Viraha Git, these 6 Gits, and then there's also Mahishi Git in the, I think it's 87th or 88th chapter at the very end. There's 90 chapters in the 10th canto, so right towards the end. So we're getting an insight into the mood of this separation. So this is the duality of the spiritual world. But here in this verse, it's talking about Achintya Beta Beta Tattva, and this is in the 18th chapter. So this is a phenomenal appreciation that only Mahaprabhu came to give. Prior to him, we've said many times, people didn't understand the distinction between the Jiva and Krishna, because we have a particle of Krishna within us. And it can be very uh, bewildering when that particle of Krishna rises, and then you start to think, oh, or you can start to think, unless you have knowledge and are being trained, oh, I have become Krishna. I was always Krishna. This is like the complete Mayavad school. This is the extremity of the Mayavad school, when we believe that we have become Krishna. But we have to understand, yes, I have a part of Krishna in me. This Gyan Sarup, Nata Sarup, Bhaktri Sarup, Mantri Sarup, Swaprakash, Paraprakash, Ketra Gyan. There's 9 similarities between the Jiva and Krishna, but we are atomic all the time. What I'm talking about now is Sambandha Gyan. This Sambandha Gyan constitutes our platform for understanding the whole of Jaiva Dharma. It's all founded on this platform of who is Krishna, who is the Jiva, what is the nature of the material world, and principally, what is the relationship between the three? What is the relationship between Jiva and Krishna? What is the relationship between Jiva and Maya, Bada Jiva and Mukta Jiva, etc.? These are the first 6 prameyas of the Dasamula, because without this platform of Sambandha Gyan, we won't have anything steady. Our faith will be very weak. This Sambandha Gyan, it's running throughout all the chapters, is essential to appreciate. So, okay. Deha kaba jivanai, dara bhogyanai, dasya bhoga
Dasabyoga
jiva
Jiva
Krishna
Krishna Prabhu
Prabhu
Bhakta
Bhakta
Hai.
hai.
The material body should never be considered to be the Jiva, and this earth is not for the Jiva to exploit and enjoy. The Jiva Swarup is Krishna Das, and thus is meant for Krishna's enjoyment, whereas Sri Krishna's Swarup is Prabhu, Master, and Bhokta, enjoyer.
This is Sambandha Gyan. Again, Sambandha Gyan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur keeps bringing it up again and again and again. We have to be totally resolute. I think that little book, Bhakti Tattva Vivek, this opens out clearly what is Sambandha Gyan, this Anyavilasita Shunyam verse that he describes there. So just appreciate the importance and necessity of really being familiar. Like, for example, when we think of Krishna, I've said this many times, there's 6 principles as described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. about Krishna, 6 qualities of Krishna, that he's beyond material qualities. He has no material qualities. That's the first one. The second one,
He's spiritual.
he has all spiritual qualities, transcendental qualities. The third one, he's Satchitananda Vigraha. He's full of that eternality, bliss, and knowledge. And then the fourth, he's Achintya Sarva Shaktiman. He's the embodiment of all energies. And then Raso Vaisa or Rasaraj.
Rasaraj.
He's the embodiment of all rasa. And then Swayam Bhagavan. If you remember these 6, you remember how to meditate directly on the Lord. This is the phenomena of Vaishnavism. If you're not a Vaishnava and you're in any other type of religion, you will not understand or have any knowledge of who is God and who is the jiva and what is the relationship between the two. In any other religion, how does Christianity understand God? It's by imagination. He's an old man with a long white beard sitting in a chair. Maybe we'll think of him like that. Maybe. But there's no definitive description. It says in the Bible that man was made after my own image. But there are all kinds of man. There are 4,000 different species of human existence. So what type of man and what are his activities, etc.? Without that personal conception, the personality of Godhead, then how can you expect to have a relationship with him? This Vaishnavism is just immaculate. It's so beautiful because we get to know straight away who is God and who am I in relationship to God. It's really divine. It's really, really special. And then more and more and more, we build on that through absorption in Bhagavatam, absorption in Chaitanya Charitamrita, absorption in Jaiva Dharma, etc. All the acharyas and so on. It's really such a gift, Vaishnavism. And it doesn't exist anywhere else except in Vaishnavism or Sanatan Dharma or Jaiva Dharma. These are different names for the same topic. It's only here that it exists. And all this, what I'm saying now, is Sambandha Gyan. This is all connected with the conception of Sambandha Gyan. So we should be appreciating this particular topic because it runs throughout. This is what this verse also is about. Krishna is the enjoyer and I am the servitor. Same. Jaiva Dharma
Dharma
nahi
nahi
ache
ache
deha
deha
dharma
dharma
kata
kata,
nahi
nahi
ache
ache
jiva
jiva
gyana
jnana maya vada
mayavada prata.
prata. This book, entitled Jaiva Dharma, neither discusses matters related to the dead material body, nor does it propound the Mayavada doctrine of the jiva's oneness with Brahm.
So these two misconceptions, either I'm the body or the goal is this nirvishesh Brahm, isn't it? The general person, if he's not open to this knowledge, he's either thinking he's the body and everything, that's including the subtle aspect. I want to go to Swagaloka because they have, more peace there, imagining more peace there, although they don't. They have all sorts of battles and wars and so on like that there. Or if it's not there, then I want moksha. I want out of the material universe altogether. So these two conceptions are not Vaishnavism. They're not the path of pure bhakti. It's not the path of Sanatan Dharma, ultimately. So again, you've got this duality. Jiva Nitya Dharma Bhakti Tahe
Tahe
Jaganai
Jaranai
Shuddha
Shuddha
Jiva
Jiva
Prema
Prema
Seva
Seva
Phala
Phale Payatai.
Payatai.
The jiva's Nitya Dharma is bhakti, devoid of material motivation. The jiva, purified by seva, attains the fruit of that seva in the form of prem.
So here's like a little window into the prayojan, into the prem tattva. Because without having the conclusion solidly in my focus, where I'm going, like now we're talking about bhav bhakti. And when I'm performing my sadhana, etc., if it's not going to be focused on bhav bhakti, we've said so many times, my Gurudev would say all the time, your sadhana is zero. This is what it's because what are you wanting to do with your sadhana if it's not being focused on bhav bhakti? And bhav bhakti is to focus on the
Say.
object of seva. That can only arise. It's like we've talked about sharanagati. Sharanagati is the qualification for bhakti, but it's not bhakti itself. We said this previously. Sharanagati is not an anga of bhakti. It's not one of the 64 angas of bhakti, Sharanagati. It's the qualification to perform bhakti. Like I gave the example of just getting dressed. You have to get dressed to come out on the street, but it's not the purpose of life is to get dressed. The purpose of life is to perform many activities in the world. That's the objective. That's what we do. So understand Sharanagati, we have to come to the platform. Don't denegate Sharanagati. Sharanagati must be there. It's the first qualification for bhakti. And this is where Bhagavad Gita beautifully brings us to Sarva Dharma Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Ahantam Sarvepya Apabhyo Moksha Ishma Masuchaha. This Sharanagat is that's the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. It's bringing us to become qualified for bhakti. Understand this clearly. Don't think, oh, Sharanagati, you're not going to think about it. No, you have to. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rashishijati vishwasya, gopritva atmanamdada, atmanishkepa kalpanya, shadvidi, Sharanagati. We should know these 6 symptoms of Sharanagati: accepting everything favorable, rejecting everything unfavorable, accepting Krishna as my protector, Krishna as my maintainer, and surrendering submissively everything unto him with great humility. These are the most beautiful symptoms, but nevertheless, still the threshold of bhakti. So don't be in any. I don't want people to suddenly start thinking, oh, we shouldn't be surrendered or something like that. Of course, we have to be. It's the first grade. It's like you have to go to kindergarten to go to the next school. So we have to come to this school to go to the next school. Everything is evolving. Consciousness is evolving. We're basically coming out of animal species consciousness. 5 types of consciousness. Remember? Achadita Chaitana, like the trees. Sankulita Chaitana, like the animals, beasts, and birds. And then Mukulita Chaitana, like the humans. And Vishakshepa, Vikashita, Shita Chaitana. And then Purna,
Purna Vikasita.
Vidashita Chaitana. These fully blossomed states of consciousness. 3 states of consciousness are in the human. So the lowest stage is almost like an animal existence, like we often see in the street, as people aren't really conscious of what they're doing. They're called anudita vivek. That higher intelligence hasn't risen yet, but the udita vivek, his intelligence is rising. So we're blessed because these teachings are pushing our intelligence to the max. Hopefully every day you're listening, because every day I'm speaking, I'm feeling that my intelligence is being pushed to the max also, because I'm describing these topics, but of course I'm thinking and meditating on these topics simultaneously. And also, obviously, realizations are coming as I'm speaking them. So I'm feeling I'm pushing my intelligence to the max every single evening. And I hope that's coming through, that you also will be on the same wave, so to speak. It's like the waves, they rise and then they fall again, etc. So that's the nature. So yesterday, we're back into our chapter 22. And yesterday, we discussed about the final, this Guna Kanakyayam, I think it was called. Ti Vashade Stale Priti. Yes. Ashaktis Tad Gunakyane. We discussed that the day before. These are the 9 symptoms. And these are only the symptoms. Bhaktivinoda Thakur cannot give us bhakti. He can point us in the direction of bhav bhakti, so to speak. It's like I've said many times, we have to walk ourselves. My Gurudev would often say the same thing. I will show you the path, but you have to walk it independently, with our own independence. It's not a group thing ultimately. These groups don't necessarily always, they're not always strengthening to the individual, because the individual has to find his own strength separate from anybody else, because he has to walk. Ultimately, at the time of death, there's no one around you. This is always the examination. It's even saying in the first canto, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says in one commentary, you have to fly your own plane. It's a one-seater. There's no one else there with you. So we have to appreciate this internal, solitary state of consciousness. And it's very relishable. But as soon as we reach that point, we suddenly realize, well, the whole room is full of all the saints and sadhus as well. Everyone is also there. And you can resonate with all those personalities when we realize our own personal strength. It's like if you have a community and everyone is depending on everybody else, it's called a dysfunctional community. But if everyone is independently interdependent, they're all independently strong, then you come to your table with your own portfolio with something to give to others. If you don't develop your own strengths, what will you have to give to others genuinely? So in this world today, people are very weak and prone to want to be dependent on other people. But this is actually described as almost like an aparad in Shastra. If one becomes too dependent on others, this is not at all helpful for the path of bhakti. Not at all. It's like, for example, if you have many servants and sevaks, they're always doing everything for you. It actually weakens you. It stops the um, resolute determination to do things for yourself. So I'm feeling like that sometimes because people do things for me. But at the same time, I'm aware of that.
How is it in Guru and Shishya, the dynamics? The Shishya is dependent on Guru, right?
He's dependent on Guru for nourishment of inspiration, but he still has to follow the instruction that Guru gives. If Guru gives instructions, you should chant so many rounds each day, you should do this and this, then Guru is guiding. And the Shishya has to pick up the instruction that Guru is offering. Do you mean that?
You said that nobody can depend on someone fully.
We depend on Guru for our spiritual inspiration and strength, but still, Guru will want you to walk with that strength, with your own strength by yourself. I'm saying the distinction between dependency and independent. If you suddenly become totally dependent on Guru for everything you do, oh, Guru, should I go here? Should I go there? Should I do this? Should I do that? This is not using your own intelligence. This is not very good. This is a weakened condition. Guru should encourage the Shishya to use his own God-given intelligence, and he will just instruct from Shastra the direction where you should go and how you should develop your own consciousness to serve Krishna. But still, we have to have our complete Sharanagat to Guru. And it's described, my Gurudev used to describe, what is the greatest thing you can ever give me? He used to ask us, what is the greatest thing you can ever give me? And all kinds of different answers would come. My Guru would say, no, give me your independence. And that was shocking to me at the time. I didn't really want to give up my independence to Guru, not my real independence. I wanted to have my own space. And, if I wanted to come or didn't want to come, I would make up my own mind. But Guru is saying, give up that independent separatist. Because I'm talking about, you know, subtle subjects. It's not just black and white. You have to discern through.
What does it mean to give up independence? Means in every
It
action.
means if you're going to do something like, I want to go to Vrindavan in Kartik. I want to go to Vrindavan in Kartik. But I don't ask Gurudev. I don't ask him first. First, I book my ticket and then I come and say, oh, Gurudev, I'm going to Vrindavan in Kartik. And yes, Gurudev will bless and everything. But still, that independence was with you. It wasn't with Guru. It wasn't like you were asking that and then Gurudev was sanctioning. You just independently, or somebody will just independently make a choice to do something. And sometimes we don't want to ask Guru because we might think Guru might say no. So that's when the difficulty comes. We might suspect, but if I already buy my ticket first and then just say, yo, I'm going, well, what can Gurudev do? You're already doing it. So there's no discussion, but there's a mood of depending on Gurudev for his direction. But the actual following of that direction depends on us. Understand clearly? It's like two things together simultaneously. Try to understand it. It's a wonderful subject matter. I like this subject matter because I'm very independent rascal. That's my nature. So I like this topic and I like to try and understand how can I be more fully. I always have to be thinking personally, am I pleasing Gurudev now? Is this situation pleasing to Guru? And I know my Guru, and sometimes it's not. And then I just have to think, well, what can I do? you know? But then I pray to purify the negative aspect. What Guru always wants, principally, is for our hearts to become attracted to Srimati Radhika. That is the principle. In my case, my Gurudev was only focusing on Sri Radhika, and he only wanted us to become attracted to her as a Palyadasi. He only wanted this. So in every single circumstance, that's what I have to be checking. Am I satisfying my Guru to become a Palyadasi of Sri Radhika? Is that the principal um, effort that I'm putting into this birth with my time? Is that the direction? And the rest of it is quite material and is not so important, actually. It has its importance to some degree, but it's not the principle. But you should understand this Mano Bishtam. If you have Guru, you should understand his Mano Bishtam means his inner intention. What is his inner intention? And this is what we want to serve. What's that, Chaitanya?
No Bishtam Stam.
Mano Bishtam. Shtapitam yena bhutale. Swayam rupa kadamayam. Dadanti swam patantikam. This is prayer by Narottam. And he's praying to have that same intention as Sri Rupa Goswami. This is Guru's intention. It's the same as Rupa Goswami, the same as Sanatana Goswami, the same as Krishnadas Kaviraj, the same as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the same as all our Guru, same as Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Nothing is different. This is the principal intention. So we should always be considering, am I doing that? If I suddenly do something completely separate to that, for example, if I suddenly decide off the top of my head, oh, I want to open a restaurant, that's going to involve a lot of distracting energy all day long, 8 or 9 hours a day perhaps. Is that really going to be pleasing Guru? But if Guru personally directs you, open a restaurant in your local city and start feeding the people prashadam, that's completely different. If Guru directly gives that order to do that, but if that order is not like building a temple, under Guru's order, build the temple. But if it's not Guru's order, then we should really hesitate on doing any big activity of that nature. Or we should commune internally with Guru. Does he want me to do this? And we should consider what was the life teachings of my Guru? What was he always saying? The Shishya has to be pretty smart too. They have to figure out what it is that Guru is trying to give. The Shishya, the disciple's responsibility is to know the Shastra that Gurudev is teaching and to understand, for example, where is Bhaktivinoda Thakur taking us? He's given us Sambandha Gyan. Now he's giving us the Abhideya, the method to realize this Sambandha Gyan. And soon he will give us the Prayojan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's heart is very easy to understand. He just wants us to become maidservants of Sri Radhika. If we read Gita Bali, Gita Mali, all the different songs and so on of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which we should, if we're becoming disciples of Bhaktivinoda Thakur by absorbing ourselves in his teachings, then we should read his beautiful, beautiful bhajans and poetry, etc. They are absolutely stunning. you can cram even more into a bhajan or a poem than you can into a whole book sometimes. It can express the sentiment of heart. So we should know his heart of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We want to follow Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was so non-duplicitous. He was so sincere. He was so respectable, a personality in all of his character and teachings. So if I want to be a follower of someone of this caliber, then I should try to emulate those characteristics also. So it's not rocket science. It's not difficult to understand the Manobishta really of the Guru, but it is difficult sometimes with our conditioned bodies and minds to bring it around to follow that conception, because when we're in um, a less educated state, then the wayward mind will want to be stronger and insisting on its own freedom for various little sense enjoyments that it wants to indulge in. This is the nature. That's why we must be disciplined, ultimately. There has to come a crunch at some point, in our guru nishtha, in our connection. There has to come that point when actually that point will come again and again and again and again. It'll come at one point and then we'll submit. And then it'll come up again at a deeper point, and then again we will have to submit. And then again and again. That's the nature. And then when we are completely surrendered to Guru, and we will know when that is, then Guru can just channel all of his teachings into our heart very, very easily. I often remember that story of, I've forgotten the devotee's name, but with Sankaracharya, he had one disciple. Who?
Totacharya.
Totacharya? Anyway, he was the dhobi, he was
Uneducated.
the washerman for Sankaracharya. Sankaracharya had many thousands of disciples, and he was educating them all in Sankhya philosophy, etc. And this one disciple one day was away from the beginning of the class, and Sankaracharya said, "No, we should wait for Tota." I thought it was another name, but anyway. And then all the other disciples, no, he doesn't know anything. He's just a washerman. He's just washing the cloth, doesn't know anything. And then when that disciple returned late a little bit for the class, Sankaracharya had him stand up and speak the philosophy and tattva to all the assembled devotees. And he did it so brilliantly. Everyone could realize that because of his surrendered nature, because of his absolute submissiveness to Guru, Guru was able to channel all of his teachings into his heart very, very simply. So this is actually the reality. Guru is able to do that. He's able to give that gift of divine knowledge, ultimately to give the conception of your spiritual identity in the heart. But it has to be with complete submissiveness to Guru. And these days it's not so easy to do like that. These are some thoughts for us to move forward on. So yesterday we talked about those who were um, demonstrating kubhav ideas of just rolling on the ground when they didn't really have Shuddha bhav, when it wasn't pure. And now Bhaktivinoda Thakur started to describe what is pratibimba and chaya abhas bhav. So these two words, I was encouraging you to learn clearly these two words. Like we know the word prasadam, we should know pratibimba and chaya. Pratibimba means reflection, and that reflection is of a negative idea actually, because it's not connected to the object of worship. Chaya is kind of okay. It's on the way to becoming connected because it's a shadow. We even say in Hindi, I think Bengali also, it's chaya means shadow. That's the meaning. Pratibimba also means reflection. So these terms are very important. So I think we reached 5:15 yesterday.
No, Maharaj.
Where did
How
we get?
many kinds of Rati Abhas are there?
Where were we?
514.
Bottom of 514. Okay. How many types of Ratyabhas are there? Oh, we didn't go into any of this yet. Okay. Babaji, there are two kinds of Ratyabhas: reflected Ratyabhas, Pratibimba Ratyabhas, and shadow Ratyabhas. Chaya Ratyabhas. So now we're familiar with the terminologies. We can move forward without tripping up on them. Vijay, what is Pratibimba Ratyabhas? Babaji, people who desire liberation think that one can only obtain mukti through Brahma Gyan, knowledge of the Brahma Jyoti. This is impersonal knowledge. Jiva Brahm Aikya Gyan. This is described in the verse Anyabalasata Sunyam. We accept the knowledge of Tat, that's Krishna. We accept the knowledge of Tvam, that's the Jiva, but we reject this Jiva Brahm Aikya Gyan, this knowledge of impersonal liberation. It has no standing for the Bhakta, for the Vaishnava. Obtain mukti through Brahma Gyan, but the spiritual discipline of Brahma Gyan is difficult and troublesome. Some of them come to understand that mukti may be achieved simply by performing Harinam, and that one may obtain Brahma Gyan in this way very easily and without hard labor. Trap. When they think like this, they become blissful, expecting to obtain mukti without having to undergo great difficulty. I just got to chant and then all liberation will come. My only focus is becoming liberated from this material suffering. That's my principle. I don't really want the kingdom of Vrindavan or my relationship with Krishna and Radha. I just want the liberation. So that can come also. Nam will give everything. Then this semblance, abas, of the bodily transformations such as tears, horripilation, etc., appear in their bodies. Such transformations are known as pratibimba abhas. Understand clearly. His intention is mukti. His intention is not bhakti. It's a reflected um, aspect of the original object and goal that's been spoken about. It's not even connected to the object. It's a reflect because it's mukti. Wanting mukti or moksha is completely separate. It's like the two witches. What's that verse?
Bhukti Mukti Sprahan
Bhukti mukti spriha yavat vischachi
Yavavattate.
vartate. Yes, these two witches, mukti bhukti spriha yavat vischachi vartate. These two witches of Maya and the witch of material enjoyment and mukti, liberation. Jiva Goswami gives it. Rupa Goswami gives these. Why are they called reflected pratibimba? Babaji, if those who desire liberation or material sense enjoyment have the good fortune to associate with advanced bhaktas, they also begin to adopt the process of Harinam Kirtan and so on. At that time, some reflection of the Bhav moon in the sky of the Shuddha Bhakta's heart also appears in the heart of those who are thirsty for liberation. If that is our priority, if that's what we want, this reflection is called pratibimba. Shuddha Bhav never arises in the hearts of those who desire material sense enjoyment or liberation. But Bhav Abbas arises in them when they see the Bhav of Shuddha Bhaktas, when we experience that association. That Bhav Abbas is known as Pratibimba Abbas, and it does not generally produce an enduring benefit. It only bestows material enjoyment and liberation. Bhukti Mukti Spriha Javat, Vischachi
Bhukti
Spriha
Mukti Spra Yavat Pishchachi Hriday Vartate.
Hridi Vartate. Yes, in the heart, these two witches, enduring benefit. It only bestows material enjoyment and liberation, and then it disappears. Such Bhav Abbas may also be understood to be a kind of Nam Aparad. I was reflecting that there used to be a school called Sattvato, and many devotees went to this to try and purify their material difficulties and focusing on their various material afflictions. And it was run by a devotee. But I spoke to many of the people who went to this training session, and they said, yes, they reached a sort of place of almost like euphoria. They felt that they'd walked out of their material difficulties, but then it always seemed to come back again 6 months later. It's exactly as what it's saying here. It never endures because it's not on the eternal platform. It's on the material platform. So we have to see like that. It's no point to going to different psychics or people like this trying to purify some deep anartha or problem or tantrics or something like this. There's all sorts of, the internet is packed with these alternatives to our problems and so on. But that's not going to be an enduring solution. The only enduring solution is to connect with the object. So pratibimba is not connecting with the object. It's a reflection of the object. Rajanath, please explain the nature of Chaya Bhav Abbas. You understand clearly,
Hmm.
Pratibimba. It's a reflection. Babaji, when a Kanishta Bhakta who is unacquainted with knowledge of the self, Atma Tattva, associates with activities, time, places, and bhaktas who are dear to Hari, a shadow, Chaya, of Rati may appear. Compared to Rati itself, this shadow is insignificant by nature and unsteady, but it creates curiosity as to the Rati of Shuddha Bhakta's experience, and it destroys sorrows. This is called Chaya Rati Abbas. The bhakti of these bhaktas may be pure up to a certain limit, but it is not resolute, and that is why it is given rise to Rati Abbas. In any case, such Chaya Bhav Abbas only arises through the influence of many pious activities. By the association of Vaishnavas, Satsanga, Chaya Bhav Abbas becomes pure and subsequently gives rise to Shuddhabhav. Nevertheless, one should bear in mind that no matter how developed this Bhav Abbas may be, it gradually wanes, like the moon in the dark half of the lunar month. If one commits some offense towards a pure Vaishnava, what to speak of Bhav Abbas, even Shuddhabhav will gradually vanish if one commits offenses towards Krishna's bhaktas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so kind. He's opening out and showing us the route to Bhav Bhakti, and he's pointing out the pitfalls along the way that we can be distracted by. We can start to imagine that I'm actually achieving some higher state of Bhav, but it can just be a reflected, or it can just be a shadow form, and it's not going to endure. But it's something. He's saying it's something. It can give rise because it's something. It's like we'll discuss this in Nam Tattva, because this Chaya, Chaya Aparat, Chaya Namabas, and Pratibimba Namabas also same distinction is going to be discussed. Do you understand? Clear. At least the language is here for us to follow and to appreciate. If there's any confusion, we can just read it again and again and again. If one repeatedly associates with those who desire liberation, his bhav will become bhav abbas, and he may fall victim to the pride of thinking himself to be Ishvara. That's the next stage. This is why it is sometimes seen that when new bhaktas are dancing, they develop the desire for liberation. All of a sudden, I mean, how many people are allowed to dance in the streets?
Hmm.
Only the devotees. Otherwise, they'd lock you up in jail as being drunk or something, right? But how many people do you know who just will go on the street and dance? It doesn't happen except when they're intoxicated, and then perhaps they get locked up or something like that. Only the devotees can go on the street and not be locked up, and they can dance. So there's a certain rush of like liberation. Hey, I'm walking down Oxford Street and I'm dancing. That can be, wow, very liberating. But he's saying this is just a semblance of liberation, and it doesn't last, doesn't endure. These new bhaktas do not think carefully and consider their situation, and so they associate with those who seek liberation, which results in disturbances. Because most people coming to this path of devotional service, we explained before, practically everybody, their motivation for coming to this path is to become liberated from their suffering condition.
Mm.
That's why they come, isn't it? They come for this purpose. We have to be clear. We come to be relieved of us. We don't know transcendence. We haven't gone to the school of the transcendentalist yet. So we've come to become liberated and free. But if we're in the company of only those people of the same mindset, and even those people have taken some senior role amongst those liberated personalities, then that's going to influence the junior bhakta. Then the whole sangha is going to become, my Gurudev used to say, derailed. The whole sangha will become derailed. The train will go off the track because the whole focus will be ultimately on liberation of all different sorts and flavors of liberation according to the desire of the various individuals. And then even higher than that, the liberation of Vaikuntha is still variegated. Shalokya, Misdi, Sharsti, Sarupya, etc. These are all distinct types of liberation. So that's to be avoided. And in other words, again and again, association is vital. New bhaktas should therefore carefully avoid the association of people who aspire for liberation. Occasionally, the state of bhav is seen to arise in someone suddenly and without apparent cause. The explanation for this is that he practiced sadhan extensively in his previous birth, but that practice could not bear fruit until now because of various kinds of hindrances or impediments. However, Shuddha Bhav suddenly arose in his heart when these obstacles were removed. Sometimes an excellent state of bhav like this may also arise suddenly because of Krishna's causeless mercy. This kind of bhav is known as Sri Krishna Prasad Japav. So we discussed before in the sudden abhinivesh chabhav that is incurred by my strict, careful practice. And then there's the
Prasad Chaba.
prasad chabhav, which is manifest by direct mercy. So this last example is by direct mercy. So we have to consider these personalities of Brajanath and Vijay Kumar in the pastime here. They are already experiencing stages of bhav. They're having association, and they've also got the sukriti and sanskar from previous births. So therefore, the field has been cultivated fully for them to have this bhav arise. It can arise very easily in them. One should not criticize a person in whom true bhav has manifested, even though one may observe some slight fault in his behavior. For once bhav has arisen, the sadhak becomes completely successful in all his endeavors. What does this mean? If someone starts being careless about their social interactions, it doesn't really matter, but you know that they're actually practicing their bhakti very diligently and carefully. Then you should just be hesitant in making any sort of external criticism about their behavior because you don't know the extent of their devotion and how much it might have developed. Again, it's criticism should not be there anyway. There's never any need for any type of criticism on any level. It's only the real neophyte that will see the Maya in someone else, that Maya is actually it himself. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada gave the perfect example. When you're pointing the finger, there's three pointing back at you. It's generally our defects that we're seeing in somebody else reflected back, and we tend to criticize that. That's the reality. Under such circumstances, it is not possible for him to behave sinfully. This is the person who's practicing bhakti. But if any sinful behavior is sometimes observed, it should be understood in one of two ways. The Mahapurush Bhakta may have performed some sinful activity by force of circumstance, but he cannot possibly remain in that condition permanently. Alternatively, some semblance of sin, pap abhas, from his previous life has not been completely destroyed and is still present even after bhav has arisen in him. although it will be destroyed very soon. One should think like this and not pay any attention to the commonplace faults that may be seen in bhaktas, for it is nam aparad to do so. The Nrsimha Purana forbids us to absorb our attention in such faults.
भगवती च हराव अनन्यचेता भृशा मालिनोऽपि विराजते मनुष्यः नाहि शासकलौश्च चाविन् कदाचित् तिमिरपरो भवत्वाम् उपैति चन्द्रः.
Just as the moon is never obscured by darkness, even though covered with black spots, similarly, a person exclusively devoted to Sri Hari remains glorious, though by appearance he may be wicked and depraved. So, this is a beautiful meditation to consider. So, I think personally, I'm feeling that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is really opening the gate to all the different types of bhav that we may come in contact with within ourselves and we may perceive in others, and letting us know very clearly there is pratibimba, there is chaya, and there is Shuddhabhav, of course, but there are these and this Krishna Prasad Chabhav also is describing at the end here. So it's opening the appreciation of the vast individual nature of the jiva's journey. And again, it comes back to what we said right at the very beginning, that each jiva has to navigate his own passageway under the guidance of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. But he's still navigating his own passageway. This will give us the strength not to take on board detrimental, distracting influences on the journey. If we're depending on what a lot of other people are saying, it might distract us completely. I always remember this expression. I heard it in Australia. That 3 million drunks are not necessarily all right. If 3 million drunks are saying it's that way, you don't have to believe them. It's not necessarily correct. So I find this is a good expression, because in this world, everyone, the principal focus of attention is money. Like now, it's Durga Puja here. Everyone is worshipping Durga for the principle to get some material acquisition. Be a good child or the Swaga Loka or something like this. It's still material. So if we get influenced by that atmosphere and want to go towards some material desire, because of our weakness in depending on others and what they're all saying, it's actually harder in the body of a woman than a man, because a woman by nature physically is weaker than a man by nature, not always, but generally is weak, and they're generally more looking for dependence, and their securities are depending on public opinion. What does the public think of me? This is a phenomena. It's a factor. But generally, they're behaving according to the general consensus. But we should read the Shastras impartially and understand the conclusions ourselves, and then make personally our own decisions on the conclusion, and make our own judgments on the various sadhus, etc., that we feel we want. I mean, there are many impersonal sadhus, and they have huge followings. Huge followings. If you come in contact with them, they can influence you in all kinds of ways. So many sadhus here in India, and some coming in the West also. Huge. And if you go in that circle, and you'll get influence in a moment, and then by the influence of that association, you can be derailed and distracted completely. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Become interdependent, and then you can give something to the world. So we'll stop there. So we've stopped at this verse for tomorrow. Very beautiful teachings. Very beautiful. I was just sharing today that I'm only going to finish this chapter on Bhav Bhakti, and then I'm going to conclude it for the month of Kartik. So we just have another page to conclude, 2 pages of the. We'll probably finish this chapter tomorrow, and then I'm going to stop for a couple of days because we're coming into the month of Kartik, and then I'll do a live thing on Madhavacharya's appearance day, which I think is next Tuesday, and then there's on Friday. I think it's Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, and Krishnadas Kaviraj's disappearance day. All three of them on the same day. We should meet for that, and maybe there'll be some prelude to the Kartik Parikrama. But I'm not going to go beyond this chapter at this time. And then after Kartik in December, perhaps we can come back to Nam Tattva. Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai,
Jai.
Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai,
Jai.
Gold Premanandi,
Hare
Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha,
Kripa
Kripa Sindhavyevacha,
Kripa
Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.